This episode of the Your Best Lifestyle podcast is sponsored today by entrepreneur and business owner Mr. Terrance, founder of MyDealsClub.com. My Deals Club is a platform that brings together buyers and sellers that are eager for great deals from top online retailers. They offer the latest coupons and promotional offers from dozens of the top US-based stores to people just like you who are looking to save money on each and every purchase they make. Some examples of the exclusive deals that they have access to include Verizon, AT&T, TurboTax, DirecTV, and more. For more information, visit them today at www.mydealsclub.com. That's www.mydealsclub.com. Welcome to another episode of the Your Best Lifestyle podcast. I am your host, Terrance Hutchinson. We are live right now in 53 countries, 1.3 million listeners. Spain, thank you, Puerto Rico, Brazil, Japan, Ireland. Oh, man, Germany. We're getting up there. So we want to thank everybody for tuning in, our sponsors, for helping us along the way, our advertisers, our people who want to come in and help read their commercials for them. We thank you for their business. And we are here. We are in Atlanta right now, and we're in the O. Robinson Public Relations and Media Group studio. It's a beautiful day outside, about 71 here, not too hot, not too cold. The sun is shining, the birds are chirping. And we're doing pretty good. We're healthy, we're strong, and we're really grateful about that in spite of all the things that's going on. And we hope everybody who is suffering from COVID-19 or lost an individual or family members, co-workers, whatever, our prayers are up for you guys. We hope you guys speedy recovery, and we hope you guys, just try to maintain yourself as much as possible to deal with the people who that we lost. So it's a big deal, man. So, we're really grateful that we are breathing independently. We're not in ICU. We're not in hospitals or hooked up into respiratory machines because it's crazy right now. So we want you to follow the guidelines of the CDC. Wash your hands, cover your face, stay home. Despite in Atlanta, a lot of businesses has opened, but me personally, I think it's too early. So if you have to go out there, stick to what it was. Stick to your quarantine routines. Go out there for your necessities and then come back home. No hanging out. No socializing. Not yet. They had 620 new cases over the weekend of viruses spreading, because people were out. I don't know what's the problem. It's too early. Maybe y'all stay home. So anyway, welcome to the podcast. We really appreciate you guys. And like I said, we always try to bring in great thought leaders from all over the world, all over the country, who are going to share insight and knowledge and expertise about what they're doing, how they can help you, and you never know, it might be that piece of the puzzle that you're looking for, So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my next guest. I'm going to briefly read her bio, and I'm going to bring her in. Her name is Sue Bowes. She speaks, writes, and blogs on eating disorder recovery and other mental health issues. Being in recovery herself, Sue has a passion for educating and encouraging others. With a down-to-earth style, Sue desires to help and support others confronting and addressing their own struggles in the pursuit of healing. It's never too late to start. Sue's message is the one of hope, perseverance, encouragement, and despite the challenges, having survived multiple trauma in her past. Sue's story here, Sue shares her story of abuse, survival, headache, depression, and hope in a manner in which the audience can easily relate. Now, what I normally like to do, I like to read half the bio, then I'll come back in on the latter part of this show and read the other half with some more questions. So, welcome, Sue. How are you?
I am doing great. Thanks for having me on, Terrance. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you for taking time out of your busy, productive schedule to come on in. You know, we had a little couple scheduling hiccups right there, but you know, we are here. We are here. Thank you.
Glad to be here.
So, yeah, I appreciate you. So, Sue, with everything that's going on right now, how are you handling this whole pandemic right now? This quarantine. How are you handling it?
Oh, wow. Well, thankfully, I'm in addition to the speaking, I still work, and the job where I am is an essential worker, so I still have that balance, which is nice. Although at the same time, that does make it challenging. It's easy to think things haven't changed. So I really had to keep my guard up and really make sure that I'm maintaining the right things. I'm also my mom's caregiver, so we have a really tight lock on the house in terms of who comes in. It's mainly just her nurse, her doctor, that kind of thing. And those are the only people in. But other than that, you know, we're making it. We're staying positive, doing our best to stay plugged in.
Yeah, you have to. So how are you dealing with clients right now who suffer from some health issues, maybe like depression or anxiety or even PTSD right now? I know there's a lot of other things going on right now. How are you helping them deal with it?
Yeah, there's a lot going on out there. And being a life coach, I'm certainly able to help with that. And a lot of it is just listening and trying to help them through that next step. You know, what's their world right now, and where do they want to go, and how can I help them get there? And just helping them discover that and have the courage to deal with it, to break down the barriers so that they can make their dreams and their reality, you know, become real right now and help them take that next step.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's a big deal to help them right now. Are some people they find it more challenging to deal with it than others? And on what you're seeing on a daily basis?
Yeah, some of them, you know, there's anytime we have, you know, what's going on, and let's be real, all of us are going through a trauma. You know, I think we can try to think of a trauma as some kind of abuse or some kind of huge personal thing, or an assault or a murder. We think of servicemen and women and all those people, and trust me, all that is trauma and beyond. But what we're going through with COVID-19 is also a trauma to all of us. We are all experiencing some kind of loss. We've lost our freedom. We've lost our sense of security. We've lost our courage and our sense of safety. And needing to come to grips with that and realize that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be fearful. But how to manage that so you're not paralyzed in that is a dance at times. And some people, you know, are able to work through it a little easier. For other people, it triggers things. So you know, you can, any time you have something like this, some kind of trigger of event or trauma, it can trigger other things you didn't know were there. So you're seeing the whole gamut of things.
Yeah. I mean, oh my God! I know me personally. I've been dealing a lot with a lot of things in my head and a lot of things in my heart with this COVID-19. You know, we're talking about business moves, talking about things for the podcast. You know, just personal. We have personal things. We just have to pivot in a good direction. You know, luckily for me, I'm around a lot of high performers and productive people, so I'm learning how to really, you know, pivot myself and move the way I'm supposed to be moved. But it is a mental challenge. You know, it's really a mental challenge. Do you feel that people are using food as a coping device?
Very much so. I have sensed that in myself. You know, I still have a counselor I go to help keep me grounded. I still have a dietitian. Just because I'm in recovery doesn't mean I've arrived. And even the challenges of COVID-19 are challenging for me, because for me, anytime my schedule gets disrupted, it can really throw things off. So if I'm working from home more and I don't have that set structure, you know, that I might have at the office, it can throw things off. I've got some friends that are posting, you know, they need to be satirical, and I kind of have to watch what they post so I don't let myself get too exposed to it. But, you know, there are so many people talking about, I'm going to the refrigerator so much, I can't work out, I can't do this, and, you know, and I'm feeling it. And while some people are joking about it, for others it is very real. You know, food is an emotional thing. We have an emotional attachment to food. And when we are stressed, it comes out in different ways, and it's very easy to find yourself munching. Instead of munching on maybe some granola or something a little more healthy, suddenly it's the M&Ms, or it's the Snickers bar, or it's something like that. It's the pop that's around here that maybe you intentionally don't take to the office, but the 12-pack's sitting in the kitchen. It's a lot easier to go grab it because it's a comfort. It's a comfort food, and it helps alleviate that stress. It helps us feel good for that moment so we don't have to deal with whatever it is that we're having to deal with.
Correct. Most people, they reward their stress. They really feed their stress when they're feeling overwhelmed or depressed or anxiety. I read a report 2 days, I think it was 3 days ago, from the Bloomberg report that the sales of popcorn and pretzels went up by 47%, and potato chips went up by 45% since being quarantined. And I was like, whoa, it's a lot of people doing a lot of snacking. On the sales of macaroni and cheese went up, and also,
at least add some tuna to it, make it tuna mac.
Yeah. I get the reports, because I have to stay up on everything. And I got the report about Grubhub, and breakfast foods are the most ordered food since being quarantined, and also once again, macaroni and cheese, and then also Zaxby's, one of the most ordered food. And then it goes by different states and cities. People have their favorite restaurant. Now, even though these eating establishments are not really open, their drive-throughs are open. They have curbside service, and so Grubhub, I think their sales have increased, I think, by 25-30% as well. So I was like, man, people are really home quarantined. They really are, sedentary, and they may be not in controlling stress, but feeding their stress with food. And it's just crazy when I read the reports. I'm like, yeah. So what about the dreaded quarantine 15, that extra 15 pounds that people are scheduled to put on during quarantine? Are you seeing that in any of your practices or with your clients, anything like that?
I'm not seeing that too much. I am seeing a lot of concern about it, and concern about what am I going to do, and how can I take care of this afterwards. And it's more, that's the wrong question. If it's concern now, then what can we do now to start dealing with it? So it's not so much the quarantine 15, but I am seeing concerns about behavior. And that's what you want to focus on, is changing behavior, because you change behaviors and thoughts go hand in hand. So you have to tackle the thoughts, but you also have to attach that to the behavior. You kind of work both sides of the coin at the same time.
Correct. Now, it takes around 3 weeks or 21 days to set a habit, whether it's negative or positive. Now, here we're going on to over 4 weeks. What do you think about that? You think people have created bad habits when it comes down to eating, or negative behaviors are good habits?
That's a good question, and I think it's going to be an individual decision. My sense is that people are probably having to think a lot more about food, which can be good or bad. I think it's good that hopefully it's driving more families back to the table, back to some old-time values that I think have gotten lost. And I think when it first started, I was talking with some people, and I said what's interesting is that because the restaurants aren't open, and because the kids don't have constant practices to go to, and that everyone's home, that you're either ordering out and eating at home, or you're cooking. And somehow that family nucleus is going to come back to center a little bit. But one thing that I'm concerned about, and that we're seeing so much of, is that during this pandemic right now, people are having to face this stuff. And I think we are a very busy society. That's been taken away from us for a while, for a very good reason, may I say. We're saving lives, and there's no greater reason to have to stay home. And having said that, because we don't have our stuff to hide behind, it's really easy to stay busy. It's really easy to not have to deal with your stuff because you've got Junior going off to baseball practice and Sally going off to softball practice, and you got, this and you got that and everything else, and we've lost touch with each other where we really only have a couple hours a day to try to visit, and that's been magnified now. So at the same time, while that's good, you're also seeing some people having to deal with their stuff that maybe they didn't know was there, or they were trying to run from it all this time, and now they can't run. Maybe literally too, because you can only do, run around the neighborhood maybe, but you can't avoid it, and it's going to come out. So that's where that stress eating is coming from. It's not so much. I think it's more. I think the COVID is more of a trigger for things that were already there underneath, and it's allowing those underneath issues to come to the surface. And it's going to be up to each individual person. How am I going to deal with this?
Oh, you said something that was really powerful, and I was thinking about that. Now that people are working remotely from home, they used to run to their jobs, to deal with certain things in their personal life. They really camouflage the pain, and now that they can't do that, they're home, and then they quarantine snacking or, doing all the things that may add up to quarantine 15, that was, very impactful what you just said, because we can't hide anymore pretty much. I think most people are more exposed now, and they have to come into grips of what they are, who they are, and what they're doing and what they'll be doing next, Are you seeing episodes of people living in fear right now in their mind? They feel like, let's just say, their career was getting on their nerve. They had a boss that was irritating them, a co-worker that was sabotaging their contribution to the workplace, and they hated their job. Now all of a sudden they got laid off. Do you feel that, they're still running afraid of leaving a job or jumping ship to create a new platform for themselves? Like some people, they just need to get out there and create something for themselves, but they was afraid to leave their job. Now that they're gone, do you see that, people still considering that as a fair tactic, a fair option to do?
That's a good question, and I think what we're seeing is a couple things. One, obviously, if you lose your income, you have a lot of immediate things you need to focus on, and just trying to help people get through that and survive their current situation. But then also using the current situation as a springboard. My whole thing is taking your next step. You only have to be a step ahead to help the person behind you. So what's my next step? What's my next step? So what I do is help people figure that out. With my current situation, what is my next step? If my current situation is bringing me fear, okay, let's talk about that fear. And then we're going to turn that fear around to energy and to excitement and to focus and to discovery. Make it, to let the fear be a motivator and not a inhibitor, so that you can deal with the fear, you acknowledge, you honor the fear, you address it, but then you use that to then motivate yourself to then do something. So if someone has lost their job, help them. Yes, certainly, help them find those pillars of survival, make sure those are in line so that you take care of the person first. And then as that comes into focus and that fear factor drops a little bit and they feel a little more stable, a little more equipped, and like, okay, I can get this, I've got these resources, I know what I'm doing, and they can at least figure that part out, then you're able to then say, okay, so what is your next step? You weren't real sure with your job. They've had to lay you off. Hopefully you have that option to go back if you need to, but do you want to take this as an opportunity to start looking at some other things while you're on layoff? Start figuring out what it is you're interested in. And what would it take to go into that? Start looking on LinkedIn and Indeed and all these different places so that you can kind of see what's out there. Even if the job market isn't there just yet, you can still look up job requirements. You can still look up, just do the research now to equip yourself so that as states are reopening, you're ready to go. If you decide you want to move on, now's a great time to update your resume. Take away that fear factor and that unknown and use it as some empowerment for right now to make the use of the time you have so that you're already out of the gate by the time the states open up.
Oh, yeah. And right now, they're kind of like opening up a little bit, especially here in Georgia. But, like I said earlier, I think it's a little too early. But some people, they, I said this before. It was like the human species is the only species that can build a cage, lock themselves in, and throw away the key. And I think now with COVID-19 is rattling that cage. They're getting people to get out of the cage, get out of their comfort zone. And you just said something profound again when you said, you'd be ahead of the curve, when they lift the pandemic or they lift this quarantine out, the job market open back up, you'd be ready. You maybe done took another course, you would start a business, you did something you had to do to self-improve, because high performers, they're going to look at this as an opportunity to self-improve. They're going to pop the hood, they're going to change the spark plug, change the oil and everything like that, and make sure that they are performing on a higher level when it's time to. So it's like, how do you want to perform? You want to perform like a Ferrari, or you want to perform like a dump truck? The choice is yours right now. This is
I like
how
that.
we have to shift gears, and I know, reading your profile, like, you know how to shift gears. You suffer from a lot, but you was able to turn a lot of things around and harness that energy to all goodness for you. Harness that power. How hard was it personally for you to do? Because I know it wasn't really easy to do. How hard was it for you to do?
Oh, it was a 10 out of 10. I mean, it was gut-wrenching. And honestly, it's only been the last 6 years. If someone had told me 8 years ago I'd be doing what I'm doing now, I would have laughed off the face of the earth. And it's gut check. But and just to give a brief history for your listeners, I was raped when I was 7 years old by a classmate in first grade, and did not tell anybody until my senior year of college. It was a 15-year-old secret. Terrance has mentioned I'm in recovery from an eating disorder. I've been suicidal twice. I dabbled in cutting at one point in time, not much, but just a little bit. My parents, divorced after 34 years of marriage. Now my dad is, thank God, 29 years sober, but I was raised in a dysfunctional alcoholic home. There's a lot of trauma in my life, and finding the chutzpah, if you want to use an old word, to be able to face it. And what it got down to is that I got tired of playing the game. I got tired of being inauthentic and having masks on and having to then try to remember what I told somebody. I got tired of living a lie, especially in the eating disorder when it was really going. I was a master of disguise, shall we say. Someone may say, hey, did you eat? Yeah, I ate. And if someone didn't ask me what I ate, I wasn't lying. I may have had a bag of chips, but I ate. I was not lying. But if they pressed me for what did you eat, I would embellish it. Oh, I had a sandwich and some chips. But then after a while, I kind of had to start remembering, okay, who did I say what to? And I just got tired of chasing my own tail. And I just got tired of feeling beat up. And I was desperate. And I think, I hit my bottom. And I was like, I can't go on this way. I started to implode, and I reached out for help. And that is always the first step. When I speak, when I write, when I coach, whatever, the first step is always reaching out. None of us improve ourselves without reaching out for help. And that is a huge step at times. Other times it's easy when you're at that point. You're like, I don't care, whatever it takes. I do not care. I'm doing this. So it really depends. But it was hard. The counselor I'm with now is the one that saw me through my whole healing journey. I started meeting with her in 2008. I've been with her 12 years. And what's interesting is that as I've been speaking, let me back up. I started with her in 2008. We really didn't start dealing with the rape until 2014. And that is when my growth started happening. That is when my healing started happening. It's only been the last 6 years that I've come to grips with everything. One of the hardest things that she had me do for homework one week was to look myself in the mirror 10 times a day, every day for a week, and say out loud, the rape was not my fault. It was not good enough to say it was not my fault. I had to name it. And that was the most gut-wrenching homework, and it was the most freeing. After about 2 days, I started believing it, and now I'm living that. Because the only one that did anything wrong that day was Bobby, and it is all on him. And I refuse to let him have power over my life anymore. He took too much from me, and I took it back. But it was hard. It is not for the faint of heart, but it can be done. And as I realized that I had worth, that I have something to offer, and that my story can help somebody else, I realized that as I healed, I now have a responsibility to use my story to reach out to others. And that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm about. So the healing is gut-wrenching. And my book is about my journey. My book's called This Much I Know, The Space Between. And the first part's my story. It's called This Much I Know. All of us know our story. That's one thing nobody could ever take from us is our story. This much I know is my story. And the space between talks about that healing journey. And to catch there's one little thing on the back of the book that I write about. It says, when we're talking about our stories, the space between is that gap, that time of questioning and anger and confusion and doubt and whatever else you can think of. It's the gray area of uncertainty, of wondering what the point is. But awesome. You can't get around the healing mountain. You have to go through it. But I'm here now to say that there is hope, and it is never too late to start. Never too late to start. I'll share my age. I am 56 years old, and it's just been the last 6 years that I have found healing. It is never too late to start because every person has worth.
Right. It's never too late to start. I don't care who you are. You may feel like you're in a rut, or you may be, age is a limiting factor, whatever it may be. Now you're making excuses for yourself. But Sue, most of the times people's trauma becomes their message. Their triumph, out of the trauma is what creates their purpose in life. And now here you are, being a beacon of light for a lot of people who may have been underneath a rock with their feelings or with whatever trauma they've been going through, and now you're able to empathize with them and help them along the way, and that's very important. And I say this by a lot of coaches. It's hard for coaches to coach individuals who have never been through anything themselves. It's hard. How can you tell somebody how to heal if you've never really been through anything? Your purpose will pretty much, find you versus like people say, okay, I don't know what my purpose is. Oh, your purpose has to find you. And then out of your mess becomes your message, and out of your trials becomes your trials and tribulations becomes your purpose, and you're able to help so many people on the spectrum, and it's just so much. We all go through something, but it's like we come out on the other end, and we come out a better person. Like I can't even imagine your therapist said, "Hey, I want you to look in the mirror 10 times and say this and say that," and that is a challenge in itself. There's so many people look in the mirror and they do not like the image. They don't, they talk down to them. There's low self-esteem there. Their a subconscious mind always talks negative about it, and they accept that, but you cannot do it. So I know just listen to you right now in your story, and you're saying 10 times a day. Well, that had to be really challenging. It really had to be really challenging. And then another thing, your book. Let's talk about that a little bit. You said, this is how much I know in the space between. Ooh, and that's a powerful title and subtitle right there. And people, I think, maybe don't think about the space in between until they really have to peel back the layers or peel back the scabs of wounds that may have already healed. I think now that we're in this COVID-19, this quarantine thing, we have to take a look at things that we may be running from, the space in between, peeling back the scabs, do you find people have problems really looking inward, taking personal inventory of themselves that may cause them to look at the space between? Because some people just don't want to go in that space.
Right, and I think if a person isn't ready to go in that space, they're probably not going to reach out for help. They're going to keep using whatever coping mechanisms they're using. And if they do reach out for help, then I hope they have a coach or a counselor or someone who is calling them on their stuff. Because otherwise that person's not doing their job. But ultimately it comes down to that person's desire. When are you ready to deal with things? Do you want to? Do you have that courage? And I'm not going to abandon you. I'm going to walk through you with it. But some of it's going to get kind of ugly, But when you pull off a scab and there's pus underneath, it's not pleasant. But you know the healing's underneath once you get the pus out. Sorry to be gross. But I need to give a strong visualization on it. I need to give that strong visual so people understand.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So sometimes we have to do things we don't want to do, but we know it's for our best. So are people having trouble facing their stuff? Yeah, but honestly, I think those people are having trouble facing their stuff before. What we're seeing now are the ones who are finally willing to deal with their stuff. And it's like, you know what, I'm done yelling at my kids just because I'm frustrated and stressed because of this other stuff. Because I love my kids enough, and I love my wife and my husband enough, I love my family enough that I need to figure this out because I don't like how I'm acting towards them. And I want to deal with this before I blow a gasket and do something I don't want to do because I do love them, So I think that's what we're seeing is those people who are starting to notice things about themselves and are willing to put themselves aside to deal with it for the betterment of their family and their friends and for themselves, and to come out a stronger, better, more functioning person on the other end.
Yeah, man. Sometimes, we are our own problem. It's an old proverb that says, if there's no enemy within, then no enemy on the outside can do us no harm. A lot of times it's the enemy within, and we don't want to look inward. We don't want to take personal inventory. Because a lot of times we'll point the finger outward and never point the finger inward. But, like my father used to always say, if you point your finger outward, there's 3 more fingers pointing back at you. And I think that we need to take personal inventory of ourselves because we may be the problem why we're acting out. We may be the problem why this relationship is not flourishing. We got to really look at it. So, this is Sue Bowles, Bowles, and she's in recovery from OSFED, which is Other Specified Feeding and Eating Disorder, formerly known as EDNOS, and is a published blogger with an international organization called BeatingEatingDisorders.com. BED, B-E-D. Sue also serves on the BED Twitter team, maintains their own recovery website to encourage others. MyStepAhead.com. Sue's first book, This How Much I Know, what she just mentioned, The Space in Between. I love the title, Sue. Was released on Amazon and on Kindle last year, 2019. Sue has earned a Bachelor of Science degree in speech from the Defiance College and a Master of Science from Minnesota State University. Mankato, am I pronouncing that right? Mankato and
Mankato, yep.
Yep, and counseling. College student development. Since then, she's worked in higher education, faith-based nonprofit groups, as well as business in the business world. She is available to speak to your groups regardless of size, including meetings, campus events, church groups, retreats, conference, and seminars. Okay, and then we'll get to the contact in a minute. Now, Sue, when it comes down to beating eating disorders, now obviously you have a lot of experience in that. What do you say to some people who cannot back away from the table? You know, it only takes 20 minutes before your brain and your stomach to communicate and say, "Hey, we full." You know, how do you help people, you know, to back away from the table, to put the fork down, to put the bag of chips down? And some people, they just have that disconnection.
Yeah, eating disorders are all about disconnection, and any mental health struggle is in one way or the other. But there's a disconnect between, you know, how the brain processes things. What I can say is, first of all, an eating disorder is a biologically based mental health issue, and it is also the most lethal of all mental health issues. And not only because of the suicide that may happen, but also because of the damage that is done to the body while the eating disorder is active. Some of that damage remains. Now, my eating disorder, you mentioned, is called OSFED, other specified eating disorder. What that means is that I don't fit all the diagnostic criterion for anorexia or bulimia, but I have disordered eating. So there's a lot out there. People think there's only 2 or 3 eating disorders. There's a whole lot more. And then there's this general ones that, you know, that people like me get lumped into, and appropriately so. So having said all that, eating disorders have to deal with emotions that aren't dealt with correctly, and they work themselves out. We were talking about it earlier. For me, my eating disorder started in high school, took off in college, where because you're going back to what I talked about in first grade, what happened in first grade, my emotions were frozen in time. So the longer you're in the freezer, the thicker the ice gets. So when I started off course, by the time I get to college, you know, I'm like really off course. And I was a hurting kid and an angry woman, and I didn't make the connections. So by then, I'm not eating correctly, so it's meaning my brain's not processing things correctly. So what happened for me was I was in the dining hall, and my mind started basically having some real bad negative self-talk and paranoia that if I wanted to go up and get another serving of food because I was hungry and I knew I was hungry, I freaked out because I thought everybody was looking at me and that Sue would have a need. And God forbid, Sue had to be perfect and couldn't have any needs. So instead of going up and feeding my body by getting more food, I dumped my tray and got out of Dodge. And I learned to curb my hunger by snacking. So that's where mine came from. So you can see in there, it wasn't about the food. It was about the emotions behind it. And the hard work is getting back to dealing with the roots. So you can't just tell somebody, put the fork down. You can't tell me, just eat. It didn't work. Trust me, a lot of people tried. It did not work because you're going to dig your heels in even more because that's the one thing I'm holding on to. That's the one thing of control that I have in my life when all my emotions feel like they're totally out of control. Now, if someone is in treatment and they go to this treatment facility, yes, there's refeeding process that has to happen. I had to learn how to eat right for probably the first time in my life. And I can tell you that my counselor recommended a dietitian many times, and I blew her off every time. And I now tell her frequently, you didn't know what you were talking about. I should have listened. Because when I finally started with a dietitian in 2016, probably a month or two in, I still remember to this day, Terrance, how clear my brain started feeling. And I remember saying, the fog is lifting. I could just tell I was thinking more clearly. And one thing that helps in eating disorder recovery is giving a name to your eating disorder. And it might sound weird, but what happens is that when you do that, and then you verbally start, or however you start talking to your eating disorder, you are separating the behavior from yourself. So for mine, I called my eating disorder Ed. And one of my red flags is when I'm looking in the refrigerator and I want to get something to eat, and I just get overwhelmed for whatever reason. I can't figure out what I want, and I shut the refrigerator door, and I shut off my hunger. That's a red flag for me. And I saw that starting, and I'm like, Ed, shut up. And I would literally say that verbally out loud to myself, not with anybody else around, but loud enough that I could hear myself say, Ed, shut up. And I had to start realizing that me freaking out looking at a refrigerator and what was in there to eat was my eating disorder trying to freak me out. And as I separated myself from the thoughts, and I realized it was my eating disorder voice and not my real voice. That's when things started turning for me. Because then I started getting control over my eating disorder, and I wasn't its subject anymore. So it's eating disorder recovery is a specialized thing, and I really encourage anyone who's struggling with it, reach out to me, the National Eating Disorder Association. There's a screening tool on their website. They've got a hotline you can call, and they will also connect you to other resources in your area. But it is specialized, and you really need to have a full treatment team to help you manage all the sides of it. If someone is not well-versed on eating disorders, they're going to miss part of the dimension that brings full healing.
Wow. You said something that a light bulb went off in my head. You said you was listening to your eating disorder voice and not your real voice. I never heard that before that way. Describe that voice. How would people recognize that voice? Maybe people don't know that voice. Describe it a little bit, or give us a scenario if you go into the refrigerator and that voice kicks into your head. What are some of the things they may say?
Sure. A couple things are, I can't decide what to eat, so just forget it. Or, you don't want to take that because somebody else might want it, and you don't want to take the last serving because you don't want to deny somebody else. You don't want to disappoint somebody else. You don't want to take from somebody else. Those are a couple of lies that it would tell me. And what I had to learn is that I have a right to eat. I'm allowed to eat because behind the message hidden behind those statements, those voice messages, are that I'm not worthy. I don't deserve to eat. I'm not important. And those were the hidden messages, the deeper level things. But they show themselves in the, don't take that because, your brother might want that last serving, or something like that. Somebody else might want it. And that's the saying, while you can twist it to say, yes, it's positive and think of somebody else, in an eating disorder mind, it's translated to, I don't deserve to eat. I'm not worthy of that. I'm not important enough. I don't deserve that. So that's some of the deeper stuff that goes on.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know when you said the first one, the voice, you said, I don't know what to eat, so forget about it. I think I had that yesterday. I think I talked. I think I said that to myself. I'm like, that sounds familiar to me. I promise you it did. It sounds familiar. As soon as you said it, I was like, oh, that was yesterday. I was like, I don't know what to eat. Just forget it. So now I'm going to have to start listening to my eating disorder voice to see if I'm being okay with that. That's crazy that you said that, because I knew I just said that to myself yesterday when I opened the fridge.
And some of that is just from being a moment of stress or being overwhelmed. Not everybody that has that thought has an eating disorder, but it does mean they're dealing with some kind of stress, and their brain just can't process anything else at that moment and doesn't want to make a decision.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. We have a lot of orders coming on, and then we're pivoting in the business world. We have podcasts, the magazine, so it is a little. The stress has increased a little bit, but business has increased too. So I'm trying to balance it all, and sometimes I'd be like, why am I craving sugar right now? What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
I may want a cookie or something. I don't know. And it was like, oh my God. And then you mentioned earlier about the Snickers. And I tell it all the time. The Snickers is 25 grams of sugar, and their marketing commercial is more like not feeling like yourself, eat a Snicker. And it's like when your sugar drops,
Mm-hmm.
and then you eat a whole Snicker bar, which is only a few ounces of milk, chocolate, and sugar and peanuts. It's going to bring your sugar back up, But I do know I work with a lot of people who have I wouldn't say eating disorders, but they suffer from anxiety and stress because their careers are very, it's high demanding, and they always got that one drawer in their office that has all the snacks that are not healthy, and should people focus more on nutrition versus food when it comes down to eating disorders?
Yes, because food, first of all, has no moral value, and I think it's easy to say, again, I shouldn't do this, I'm not worthy of it or something. That's putting a moral value on food. Food is food. Food is there to energize your body and to fuel it. What I have learned is that eating balanced it stabilizes the metabolism. I still have what I think is a pretty raging high metabolism, and what I learned though is that to stabilize it, to keep it going up and down or whatever, is that if you have the fats, the proteins, and the carbs, and a balanced amount of each one. The meal plan I'm on, my dietitian and I set up, is based on the diabetic exchange system. My guess is you're familiar with that terminology?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, and for the listeners, diabetic exchange system is set up so that when you look at a food label, and the key is looking at the serving size on the food label, and you look at how many grams of fats or carbs or proteins are in one serving based on the label, then you translate that to how many servings of carbs or fats or proteins that is as the exchange. So 5 grams of fat, 5 to 8 grams of fat might be one serving of fat in the exchange program. So we set up so many exchanges, numbers of exchanges for each meal, for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, and then ideally 2 snacks a day. It doesn't always have to happen that way, but it keeps the metabolism stable, and it keeps the blood sugar level. So that was the thing I had to learn. And my homework the first few weeks with my dietitian, the very first week she said, just eat. When you're hungry, eat. And all she was needing me to do was start tuning into my hunger cues, because as with someone with an eating disorder, I had learned to shut mine off. So, and then we focused on just breakfast, just the exchanges for breakfast. That's all we're focusing on. And we made it, to use a pun, bite-sized pieces. Just dealing with breakfast first, and then we kept building from there. And what happens is that as your body learns that you are going to feed it correctly, as your body learns that it can trust you, a lot of that fat goes away because your body is storing the fat because it's not trusting you to take care of it. So it's going to hang on to it when you give it to it, because it doesn't know what you're going to give it next. But as you start to eat correctly and balanced and consistently is the key, then your body starts to think, hey, you know what? I don't need to hang on to this. I can kind of start letting go of this. And you'll find your body metabolizing itself and taking care of those things. Now, for me, the converse happened in terms of I actually put on weight. And I used to be definitely afraid of going over a certain weight. And I don't talk numbers because I never want to trigger anybody. I can say at my lowest weight, I was not in a good place, and I should have been in treatment. But the weight I'm at now, I used to consider way too much. And I kind of just, grew into it as I ate. Every person their body has what they call a set weight. It's the weight that your body is already designed to be at. Your biology and your genetics have already determined what your ideal weight is. And, I'm actually comfortable with mine. I'm my mom's caregiver. And because I am at my set weight and maintaining that, I'm actually able to help her more. I can lift her and transfer her safely because my body structure, my bones, my joints are supported now. Before they weren't. And now I'm seeing benefits of just eating right. But to answer your question, yes, the focus needs to be on nutrition, not food. Diets are a lie, and eating disorders are not about diets.
Right.
And I can get on a soapbox about it, but I won't. Briefly, diets are about restriction. Diets are about doing without. If your body is designed to need each, and it needs each group, proteins, fats, and carbs, it needs it all together, each meal in balance. If your body is designed that way, why on God's green earth would we deny it? We're shooting ourselves in the feet. I'm stepping off my soapbox now.
Yeah. That's amazing because you know what? You are a caregiver for a loved one, your mother, and having the right nutritional plan and not just eating for food, it really keeps your body more in line, it keeps it more fit. It increases more muscle endurance and stamina, bone joint health, joint flexibility and mobility, so you're able to move around. It also increases great respiratory breathing patterns, blood circulatory system, as well as cognitive awareness and focus. And this is very important when you are a caregiver. I know a lot of caregivers who are very unhealthy, and they are, caring for other people, and, they're just eating, and it's like, look, if you're a caregiver and this person is in a wheelchair or have some type of physical limitations, you can't feed him or her any type of thing, okay? Because this is going to increase their weight gain as well. And this is going to cause another issue as far as some maybe obesity, diabetes, stroke, hypertension, everything like that. So whatever you're eating, and that's what you need to really try to have your family member eat as well. So if everybody's body is in an ideal state, homeostasis environment, then the environment and the love is going to be more a pure thing. And when you said that, as a caregiver, you're saying everything, you're able to do more for your moms. What I'm saying? That makes all the difference in the world. People don't understand that having proper nutrition in your body, having a great vitamins and minerals, the electrolytes and everything going in, your body feeds off that. Your body is a well-oiled machine. And what I like to say about that is, like, people have cars that's 20, 30 years old, and they take better care of them cars than they take care of themselves. Mm-hmm. And I've seen that, and I'm like, well, that's a nice car. And then, look at this person. This person is overweight, diabetic. It's just crazy to me. So, you point out a lot of good statements and issues right there about eating properly, maybe great nutritional time. And do you ever see yourself doing a lot of meal replacement shakes or liquid nutrition, protein shakes, smoothies? Do you incorporate any of those in your nutrition once in a while?
Not as a rule of thumb. If I want to add those in, that's fine. When I was before I started with a dietitian, and I was severely underweight, my counselor had me eating, or had me using nutrition shakes just to get the extra calories. And honestly, at one point in time, I think she wanted to ask me to do 2 8-ounce Ensures a day. And my mindset at that time even was, that's an awful lot. I might be able to do 1. And she's like, okay, we'll start there. I'll take anything you'll give me. So, as a rule of thumb, usually anybody who's in eating disorder recovery really doesn't want supplements, because if you're in treatment and the dietitian's there and everything, and you're just not able to eat, then you have to supplement there. So you don't want to do that, because it can kind of, it's a weird, whacked out, warped world in the mind of an eating disordered person, and it can take something as good as a vitamin shake or something and turn it into a negative. So you really have to watch that. But as you grow in recovery and you're in your meal plan and you're eating that and you're staying focused on that, there's no need for the supplement.
Awesome. Awesome. You're listening to the Your Best Lifestyle podcast right here on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Anchor, Apple, Google, and many, many more platforms. This is Sue Bowles. Man, Sue, you dropped a lot of great information here. Before we tie up this podcast, tell everybody some final words that you want to get out there to the world. Anything that you can say that really uplift and encourage, inspire, or even educate, the world, the listeners, and then tell everybody how they can get in contact with you if they need some help.
Sure. Well, my parting thought would be in the form of this brief story. When I was suicidal and my parents were divorcing, I was on a ski trip out in Colorado with a Christian camp I was part of, and a musician friend named Billy Sprague was there. Billy had lost his fiancée in a car wreck a couple years prior, and found out right before he went on stage to do a show. So Billy was deep in grief. We reconnected on the trip, and I was suicidal at that point. There were only two thoughts keeping me alive, one of which was my family didn't need to go to my funeral in the middle of the divorce. So I'm thankful I was rational enough for that. So I talked to him the last day. I said, I need to learn from something you've gone through. How do you go on living when all you want to do is die? We talked for an hour and a half, and he shared a lot. And the last thing he said was, that's all I know to tell you, Sue, step by step. When he was in his grief, he had a friend teach him to watch his steps in the airport when he was in between shows. And he would take a step and say, one more step. I'm that much closer, one more step. And he had me watch my shoes, watch my boots on the way down to the slopes that day. And I watched my feet, and I was like, it's a long journey, and I'm not going to make it. That was 1991. And my parting thought, encouragement to every person is, what is your next step? Every journey starts by reaching out. And that's my encouragement, is take that step. That healing journey does not start until you reach out. None of us can do it on our own. And if there's something I can do to help you, I want to do that. I'm a life coach. I'm happy to walk that path with you. In the virtual world, we can meet on Skype or Zoom. That's not a problem. But wherever, in person, wherever, find someone, find somewhere where you can take that first step. Because you are worth it. It is not too late. And your story deserves to be healed, and your life deserves to have healing, because your life is worth it, and you are worth it, and you have value. That was my parting shot on that one. Where people can find me is on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Everything is under My Step Ahead. I've got two websites. mystepahead.com. That's got blogs, it's got resources, it's got all kinds of stuff on there. It started out as an eating disorder recovery website. It now has all kinds of stuff on there. I lost my pet the Sunday after Christmas, and I wrote a blog post about pet grief. Don't let anybody ever tell you it's just a pet. It's not. It's a part of you. So, I cover whatever I'm going through. I just share it with the world. And then I've got the website. If there's something I can do speaking-wise or coaching-wise, SueBowles.com. There's a form there you can fill out. Get in touch with me. I would love to talk more about it. However, there is, if I can say this real quick, next week, I don't know when this is going to publish, but May 5th, make sure I have the right dates, May 5th through 7th, there is a virtual summit on mental health that I speak at. And it's with Life Mastery Foundation. And if anyone wants more information, I can get them a discounted registration link. Just text next step to 31996 and send me your email. I can get this to you. The pre-registration is $97 for lifetime access. It goes up day of the summit. It goes up even higher after the summit. Right now there are, I think, 28 or 29 speakers, including some folks who have done TEDx talks. So there's some high-quality stuff there. I'm sharing a presentation called The Inside Life of an Eating Disorder. And I share my story in more detail, and I talk about what it's like to live with an eating disorder. Right now there's last time I saw it was 167 people in listening, getting ready to listen to it, and it's probably gone up higher after that. So if someone's interested in that, I would love for them to sit in on that, love to get them that link. And then I've had another opportunity come up for May 18th. There's going to be another summit I've been asked to speak with. It's called Dare to Speak Up, and it's talking about breaking the shame of trauma. So if anyone wants any information on those, just text Next Step to 31996 and send me your email. If you send me your email, I will also send you two free chapters from my book as a thank you.
Awesome, Sue. Whoa, look, I'm telling you, she's been through multiple stages of drama. Okay, she's not just one of these life coaches who's just going to tell you some things and collect a check off. She understands. She's been there. She knows the struggle. She knows the heartbreak. She knows just about the abuse, the survival, the strategies of how to survive. She has the experience and the knowledge and the wisdom and education to help you along the way. And I think it's very important that if you're suffering from any type of trauma, such a thing she's went through, or even anxiety, PTSD, any type of mental health conditioning, depression right now, especially during these unprecedented times, I suggest that you reach out to her, mystepahead.com, or even SueBowles.com, and, get out, man, and get connected, because it's a lot going on in the world right now. We all need, that one thing, that one coach, that one book, that one testimony, that one message that can really help clean up your mess, and a lot of times it's not your fault that you went through things, and you may have, suppressed that feeling or emotion or that trauma for years, and now it's this time to really, really pull back the layer or pull that scab, and like Sue said, you might get some pus going on, but it's okay. You can clean that thing up and get some of this good old healing ointment on there so you can move on to life. You cannot stay stuck. You cannot stay emotionally and psychologically paralyzed, because it's going to paralyze you physically as well, So we have to focus on all the wellness components that's going on with mental health and emotional health, financial health, physical health, environmental. We have to pay attention to it. This is why I like to bring on individuals, who are, uniquely qualified and who've been through the struggles, who've been in the trenches. I just don't like to bring in people who, say, hey, I just graduated and I haven't been through anything. I love hearing the struggles. I love hearing the diligence, the tenacity of people who pull themselves up by their bootstraps in the trenches, in the dirt, who has the mud and the dirt underneath their fingernails, who can tell you, the horror stories, who can really walk you through it and coach you through it, man. It's very important. Like, everybody want to see the success stories, but nobody ever want to hear the struggles of how they got there. And this is what we're doing here on this podcast. We always want to talk about, the demons people face, because, it's very important, because everybody's dealing with them. Everybody has skeletons in their closet, things they need to get out, things they held for years. They haven't even told anybody. But, like Sue, she refused to let this thing, be over her, and she took action for herself. And like she said, it's only been a few years. And because of that, in the middle of that, she's able to create a platform to help people all over the world on a global stage, not just in her community, but in a global stage, helping people. So this is why I really appreciate individuals like her, come in and just really share their story, man, because it's so impactful for a lot of people. You never know. You're going to get that vitamin that you need. It's all protein, no soy. It's just going to get that, what you need so you can flourish to the next level. Now I'm learning how to listen to my eating disorder voice. I'm trying to get it out. Thank you, Sue, for that. I'm trying to listen to it now every time I go by the refrigerator. So, it forces me to look at food. I'm a nutritionist, so it's like, I have my moments of cravings, and then I have to ask myself, why am I craving this? Am I stressed? And what's going on around me. Know your triggers. And certain things I said, no, I got to stay away from. And then certain things I'm like, I don't care, I'm either. I'm just going to burn it off, But it's amazing, Sue. I really, really appreciate you taking time out and sharing that, because it just means so much to me and listeners. I guarantee you it's going to help a lot of people. And, my podcast comes out right away. You don't have to wait a month. It comes out right away.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah. It come out right away. So anyway, this is the Your Best Lifestyles podcast right here, man. On major platforms all over the globe, and we are growing. So thank you for sharing and advertising the positive feedback. And, like I said, this is Sue Bowles, and you can reach her at SueBowles.com or MyStepAhead.com or BeingEatingDisorders.com. Just go ahead and just Google all that and then get the information. And make sure that you go to Amazon as well and get her book, This Much I Know, The Space in Between. Okay, sounds like a phenomenal book. Make sure that you go out there and purchase that book, or get it on Kindle, read it, and then also get some chapters in for coming into her programs that's coming up as well. So we appreciate you, and we'll see you again soon. YourBestLifestyle.com. If you'd like to be a guest, you can contact us at www.yourbestlifestyle.com, or actually at the old Robinson PR Media Group.com at gmail.com. Yeah, and we can get you on. Okay, so we really appreciate you. Sue Bowles line, okay, and we thank you and have a good night.
All right, thanks. Thank you so much, Terrance.
Yeah, hold on for a minute, Sue. This episode of the Your Best Lifestyles podcast is sponsored today by the MedFit Network. The MedFit Network is both a free national online registry to find educated fitness and healthcare professionals in your area with services for those with chronic diseases, medical conditions, disability, women's health, including pre- and postpartum care. A professional membership organization for fitness and healthcare professionals. Join us today at www.medfitnetwork.org. That's www.medfitnetwork.org.